It does seem, listen, I think people have a high faith in Andrew Berry's ability to find a trade partner if he wants to trade out of 6. For some reason, that's really become the thing that everyone's like, yeah, okay, but who are you trading up for?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Jeremiah Love's got to be one of those answers, right? Even like if he's there at 6, I think there's enough teams out there that'll look at it and say, okay, that's the guy that we're going to make a big move for, but you're still trading up for a running back at the end of the day.
Yeah, listen, I don't know where Bailey and Bain are going to go. There's a decent possibility at least 2 of those guys could go before you're on the clock there. It makes more sense to me that somebody would trade up for one of these edge rushers. I know it's a deep class for edge rushers, but there is seen to be Arvell Reese, then Bain and Bailey. That actually makes more sense than anything. But it's funny, like it feels like the Browns have like a Goldilocks zone, like kind of what Daniel was saying of, well, if you can trade down within the next 6 or 8 picks, I didn't do it, 6 or 8 picks,
nice.
And then still get one of the guys you wanted, and it's like, this doesn't feel like that draft. This feels, and it's funny because I do think most Browns fans are rooting for a trade down, which
definitely
might be the only time in my life I can remember that being like the sexy thing for most Browns fans.
Why does it feel like a trade down? They're not even concerned about the compensation in return. They're just like they want the trade down, and then they'll act as if it's a win from there. In a weird way, a trade down would be as satisfying to a lot of fans as anything that you could see on draft night.
And it's weird. Like there is. I know Zach has his idea that if, he thinks it's Carnell Tate, unless there is a trade down there. I know everyone started to kind of firm up their position of what they think's going to happen. I firmly believe Mendoza's going 1. I'm pretty sure Arvell Reese is going 2. And then I think it's going to be, I think you need chaos for Browns fans to get what they want, which is some sort of trade down in future pick.
Well, that's what makes it so fascinating, and that's why so many people, you can't project out Jeremiah Love. You can't really project out Carnell Tate. For as many people that like Carnell Tate here because of Ohio State, there's just as many people that like Tyson better. We don't talk about him as much because he's not an Ohio State guy, but that's the reality out there. And so I think you're right. I think there's a lot of anything can happen with this. That's why I've isolated not to the idea of like I want this person at 6. I'm trying to figure out which picks will piss me off at 6.
Oh, which one?
That's where Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson would piss me off at 6.
Yeah, I think that's a fair.
Well, and then we had Mary Kay last week that was talking about Ty Simpson at 6, and Nick Shook was talking about Ty Simpson at 6, and there was a growing momentum of Ty Simpson at 6. That camp was starting to really get going last week, Nick, and so
what did you do to derail it?
I just did my best.
Yeah.
Just put my hard hat on. We got to work is all we did. And so, like, really for myself, I've opened the whole entire board up, and I'm just deciding which guys I don't like, and I don't like Ty Simpson at 6. And anything other than that I'm going to be fine.
I hate being here. Let me just preface what I'm about to say with I hate being here. But if everything is about the 2027 first round, finding your quarterback, then the thing that could make me happiest is getting another 2027 first rounder. And even if you can't do that, getting a 2027 second and third round pick, like we're to a point, and I hate being here because quite frankly, I don't think you have to punt on this season. I think if you had a different quarterback room, I think I'd be very, very sunny of where you're going to be. For now, it feels like for my hopes, it's Shedeur or bust. And I don't love being in with those odds specifically, although as I'm growing into being a real supporter, I'm starting to love them more. But there's a part of me that's like,
I love it.
I'm a shahonk. I'm a supporter. I'm a shishil. I'm one of those guys. But I do think, like, I have no limit on how far I'm willing to go to get a 2027 first. And if that means that you trade to pick 42, and you end up only having one first rounder, and your first rounder this year is 24. If that lends,
what if it cancels out both first rounders?
What do you mean?
Like, what
I
if
have to trade both of them?
Yeah. What if a team is interested in your 6 and your 24, and that's where they'd offer up then the first and 27?
Sure. Yeah, I think if the whole point, if they're backing me into a corner where the only thing they're going to do to take a big swing at a franchise quarterback, then you need every asset at your disposal next year. So the Jets have the currency.
Well, you can't get left with your pants down next year when it comes to the 2027 draft. Like if you're building all this towards that draft and you're building this towards the idea that you're getting your quarterback out of the 5 we're going to have in the first round next year, then you got to be able to get your guy.
Yes, and by the way, once you get past the top 3 receivers, I know there are guys that can be upper echelon receivers. But like the kid out of Louisville, who's a big wide, is it Chris Bell?
Yeah, Chris Bell. Yeah.
So like that's a guy who I think at 39, 3 years from now, we could say, how the hell did Chris Bell get to 39?
We just say injuries is all the only answer would be, but it's a roll of the dice, yeah.
But that's where we are. Like I don't want to say I'm annoyed by where we are in the draft, but I do hate that everyone seems to be on the same page, and that and like none of the options leave you feeling like again, like how am I going to be excited the day after the draft, that first night of the draft, if they're like, hey, we only drafted we didn't have any first rounders this year, but we got that 2027 first rounder. Like, do the Browns realize how much it stinks that we're in that position that I have to say, well, if you're going to put all your eggs into the 2027 basket, you kind of got to go big or go home.
At least it'd be selling the plan in a very outwardly and obvious way, which I would appreciate.
I wouldn't.
I know I would, because
get a better plan.
They haven't had a plan. That's the problem, and it feels like constantly they're not even looking out. I know they try to sell everyone in this like 2, 3, 5 year vision, but it constantly feels out like their vision is very flimsy, and they can be moved at any given moment. At least this would signal to me, okay, you might not like the plan, but at least they've decided they're going to go into this and they're going to try to make it work for 2027, and then we can figure it out from there.
216-474-0092. How 0092? How far should the Browns go to get another 2027 first-round pick? I'll throw it back to you because you asked me about the 2 firsts this year. How far would you be willing to go?
I'm not that committed to anybody. Like, so that part of the idea that I've made up this board of people I just don't want at 6 is the idea that I haven't fallen in love with anybody at 6, and that's a real problem for myself. Would I be accepting of Carnell Tate at 6? Sure, yeah, I guess I would. Would I be accepting of Jeremiah Love at 6? Yeah, I guess I would. But I haven't fallen in love with anybody, and that's why when you haven't fallen in love with anybody, you can be malleable. I can take this any way in any direction I want. Ultimately, I like your overarching theme. If 2027 is the goal, and that's the only way you get another first rounder for 2027, then sign me up. Call this the Deshaun years part 2, I guess, because we can just go the whole entire time of not having a first-round pick all over again if it gets me the quarterback in 2027.
So while we're on the topic of this, again, the question here is how far should the Browns go to get a 2027 first-round pick? Bill Barnwell did his mock draft of trades.
Okay.
So for every pick in the first round, he goes through a hypothetical trade for that pick.
Okay.
I don't remember the one for the first pick, but it was a Jets pick, so it was the Jets trading up to 1. But he gave 3 for the Browns. I'm going to run these. I'm going to run each one by you, and I want you to tell me how much you like or dislike them.
Okay.
All right. Now Daniel mentioned the Cowboys have been linked to the Browns at the 6th spot. That makes a lot of sense. They have 2 firsts this year. They still have a first next year, although it's going to be the lesser of the Cowboys-Packers pick because that's going to the better one's going to the Jets as part of the Quinnen Williams deal. But he being Bill Barnwell, is sending the 6th pick and the 24th pick in a 2027 5th rounder to Dallas.
Okay. For
the 12th pick, the 20th pick, and a 2027 2nd round pick.
Well, yeah, I don't see how we lose in that scenario.
Why not?
Well, if we got 2 first and a 2nd out of it, and then we're giving 2 first and a 5th, we're losing some positioning here. But if number 12 overall and 20 overall can likely get me whatever top wide receiver I want or whatever top tackle I want, and then mixed in that same 2nd tier, that'd actually be better than what you have at 24. Yeah, I think that's a win.
It feels like a little Steiner math to me. It feels a little bit
when I was talking, it felt very complicated.
Yeah, it's like you're swapping the 6th pick for the 12th pick. But then, because of that, you're moving from 24 to 20. And then, of course, you're going to get a pick swap in 2027 where you move up 3 rounds. I don't know.
Which I think is the bigger deal out of this for me.
I think you're probably right, by the way. I think if you can't get a 2027 first rounder, I think a 2027 2nd rounder does just give you at least something extra. It feels a little bit of like 2 teams that aren't entirely convinced of what they're going to get in the draft. So it feels a little bit of reorganizing the deck chairs in the Titanic.
So the Cowboys would be thinking they can get one of these edge guys at 6 overall. That's their deal. And so, like, for the Cowboys, it makes a bunch of sense. Like, that's what they need. That's what they've been searching since they traded Micah Parsons. There's a reason why they were in on Hendrickson. There's a reason why they've been in on basically every edge rusher you can imagine. So, yeah, I think that in a weird way, I think it does kind of work.
I would rather, while we're on the topic, just not get the 12th pick back. Get the 2027 first as well as the 2027 second.
And just roll the dice on whatever that ends up being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too. I think they're going to look at the first round in 2027 as way more valuable, though.
Yeah, well, Dallas is in a situation where this kind of feels like Dallas's last stand potentially with Dak.
I mean, he's getting up there. He's getting up there in age.
He's also going to his contract year. They're definitely retooling, but they're trying to do it on the fly. And if they don't get the math right, it just wouldn't surprise me if in a year they decided, well, Dak's going to go off, finish his career elsewhere, and we're just going to reset this thing.
I could see that.
So
maybe right to a Cleveland Browns jersey. I don't know. Man. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, guys.
Again,
I know it's a Monday.
If that was this offseason, I'd be so excited. But
Dak's
thinking
really
about
good.
next year,
Dak's
he
really
is.
good.
He is really good.
He's just getting up there in age.
Which is not, we're not ages here. Now, the second trade here, the Patriots get 24 and the Browns get 31.95, which is a third rounder and a mid 6th round pick.
That doesn't really do anything for me.
So you move 7 spots down.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me.
You know what? For me, it's because that if that third rounder was a next year third rounder, I might be more inclined to think that's only 7 spots. Why the hell not?
Yeah, maybe if it was next year. We do have a lot of picks though. Like the Browns have 10 total picks. Like we have a lot of picks this year.
Yeah.
I don't know that we just need to be stocking up necessarily.
Well, and also 95 is on the outside of the range. Like this is supposed to be like the difference between the 10th pick and like the 60th pick is supposed to be nil. That's not the same thing as saying the 10th pick and the 95th pick.
Yeah.
There's not a huge difference between those players. All right, final one here. This has the Browns trading back into the first round for the 32nd pick for picks 39, 70, and one of their 5th round picks.
Okay, yes, I would do that.
For a third first rounder this year?
Sure.
You know who that's going to be for, right?
Caden Proctor.
No, it's going to be for Ty Simpson.
Is that's the only way we get this?
Yeah, well, no, I think the reason you'd be trading back into the first round is to get that fifth-year option for that quarterback.
Yeah, but unless there's like a wide, there's always wide receivers or somebody that falls in a spot where you're like, I can't believe Omar Cooper is still there at 32.
I think the only way
be there at 39 then.
I think the only way you're giving up 3 of your next most valuable picks this year. And again, now all of a sudden you've got more late round picks than you do early round picks. I think the only way you do it is for Ty Simpson.
It's a 3rd and a 5th, and then you're basically swapping out the 1st and the 2nd there. So like I don't know, I would do it. But I'm a believer of in this draft you need to get as close to or as best positioning as you possibly can because I just feel like the difference there is going to matter.
216-474-0092. You heard these 3 first round trades for the Browns. Which one do you like the most? I will tell you this: none of them am I sold on. But the only one I hate is the Seattle one.
Yeah,
I don't want to trade back for a 3rd first rounder. Not this year. This is just not the year that I want to have 3 first rounders.
I'm just trying to think. Like the one time we've seen him do it in recent years, that was the Njoku draft,
2017,
and that one. I mean, it honestly,
T.J. Watt went like 2 picks later.
Yeah. There was just a lot of talent in that draft too, though. There was a lot in that draft.
Not for the Browns.
It's just not necessarily
beyond Njoku and our buddy Miles.
And Miles, yeah, I was going to say it worked out. And what's funny about that is
everybody else kind of stunk in that draft.
It's funny we just never talk about that draft. And no one ever, since the day Miles was taken, no one ever relitigated it. No one ever questioned it. It was just always going to be Miles. And then you watch him overperform and overexceed every expectation, even while being the number 1 pick.
Also known as the Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
Trade. Oof.
All to line up like 45 yards off the ball.
All to line up
in
5 years later. 6 years later, trading all your assets for Deshaun Watson, who you could have taken at 12. Now we're just having fun.